How will you be a nomad capitalist when you have kids? What's interesting is people will say, hey, nomad, that's a single man's game. Or you get married, okay, fine, you can cling on to the nomad lifestyle for a little while, but your wife won't tolerate it forever. And when you have kids, it's really going to come crumbling down. I want to know how you're going to handle that one, Mr. Nomad. And I'll tell you. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson. In this video, I'm going to explain to you my plans for how you can continue living the nomad capitalist lifestyle with kids. If there's anything that I've learned in almost 15 years now of business, it is that you can do what everyone else says you can't do. There are so many naysayers out there. I like to find ways to do whatever it is that I want to do. That's a big value here at Nomad Capitalist. And so while I'm not going to be as presumptuous as to say I know everything about how to raise kids, having not any of my own, I do want to lay out the plan that I have talked about, not only with my wife, but with many other people who have kids, people who have traveled all around the world, how to live the nomad capitalist lifestyle. Now, before I do that, one of the things that you have seen in recent videos where I've talked about, for example, my master plan on living and investing and traveling around the world is I have slowed down the pace. We've beefed up our staff here over the last year and a half to 2 years from 3 or 4 people to now almost 20 people. And some of those new people are picking up a lot of the slack that I used to do. They're traveling, they're meeting bankers, they're going and doing R&D on new programs. They're doing a lot of the travel, and I'm increasingly slowing down my pace to my trifecta method, having a couple of homes, occasionally doing a solo business trip from one of those homes, but really reducing the constant zigging and zagging where in the past I might have flown up to 20,000 miles in 1 month. That I've put onto younger staff members who have the excitement for constantly being on the go. And so I think that makes things easier. What I find is, in having worked with hundreds of people, you do see a progression. Younger people who are just starting out, have lower incomes, lower net worths, they like the moving around, they like the flexibility. As you go, with people who are a little bit older, people who have been successful for more, for longer periods of time, they're increasingly looking for 1 base or 2 bases, maybe 3 bases. And so I think the first thing, if you're going to have a family, is just putting in place a certain level of boundaries so that there's some stability. And even talking to friends of mine who are still single, still living that very nomadic lifestyle, they find it really weird that I plan out as much as a year in advance now. I know where I'm going to be, and I'm really trying to be doing things in advance. I think that's great preparation for having a family and for being able to have that environment. Let's talk about 4 specific things that I have discussed with folks in my life. Number 1, you're going to have kids. One thing that I find interesting, being in my mid-30s now, is kids that are born today seem to be in school like almost when they're 8 weeks old. People have 2-year-olds that are going to school. When I was born, my mother stayed home. She had a job. She quit her job. She stayed home. She educated me. She taught me how to read. She taught me a lot of stuff. And I went to school right before I turned 6 years old. And so for me, step number 1 is I want to change the paradigm back to the way it used to be. If you can keep your kids at home for the first 6 years, that makes it a little bit easier because that big impediment of they need to be in a school, a building, goes away for those first 6 years. They stay with you. You're teaching them. I think travel, quite frankly, is a great teacher. And yes, you probably don't want to be bouncing around every 2 weeks, but if you're living in a couple of different places, they can not only learn to read and to speak your language, but they can learn to potentially read and write and speak the language of some other country or where you are. If you're living in Panama, they'll learn Spanish. It's a pretty good tool. And since that 0 to 6 age range is one of the best age ranges to learn a language and to retain a language, I think that's really a great opportunity to keep them home from school. The second thing is, okay, Andrew, you got them till 6. You got me. You squeezed a few years out. What do you do then? Well, it's interesting because my friend Ashley wrote the book on world schooling. You can find it on Amazon, and she talks about concepts like world schooling, unschooling. Some of these concepts seem a little bit extreme for some people. What I found as, rather than just letting your kids run around and educate themselves, is you can hire tutors. What's interesting is, I was reading something the other day about people in the United States who are hiring nannies and tutors and how bloody expensive it is. It's really expensive in this particular case, Manhattan. You could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year having these people come and help and educate your child. But when you leave the United States, you find that there are a lot of countries around the world with really smart people, very well-educated people, perhaps more well-educated than you'd find in the United States. But they don't cost that. They cost a fraction of the price. And if you were traveling, I think you'd find quite a lot of well-educated Romanians, for example, who would jump at the chance to travel the world, see different places, and earn an above-average salary. I think for the price of a private school in some parts of the US, Australia, what have you, or an international school overseas, you could hire a private tutor who has experience in teaching your child, and they could travel with you, they could live with you, they could take the slack and actually go through a formal curriculum. So your child is in school, but your child would also have time living in some different places to explore the world around them and have a different environment. And I think that, there are plenty of ways to socialize. When I talk to people who have families who are nomads, they say, our kids meet people everywhere. They meet people all over the world. Now, maybe you say, you know what, I want to live in one home base. I just want to stay in one place. And that way my kids have some stability. Maybe we'll move every once in a while. Whatever the case may be, there are so many different permutations you can use with this. But quite frankly, when I talk to parents who do this, they say kids are adaptable. They love having different sets of friends in different places. They love going and seeing different things and experiencing different things. And so to me, this really comes down to, this is kind of the hardest part, is this time when you're in school, the kids are in school. It's the hardest time because there are so many preconceptions. Just look at the homeschooling community in the United States where I'm from and how they battle off all the conceptions like, well, if you put your kids in homeschooling and they don't like it, will you put them in public school? And they say, imagine you flip that. If you put your kid in public school and they don't like it, would you let them go to homeschool? Right. There's this kind of natural order that public school, a school building is like the only thing and everything else only serves as being subservient to that. And that's the paradigm that has to be changed, in my opinion. If you change that paradigm, you'll find a way to make it happen. So I think tutors are a great opportunity. One thing that I've discussed in my family and also with other families is a potential compromise. And I've seen a lot of people where the husband really encourages the nomad capitalist lifestyle, kind of giving a hat tip to his wife and saying, for high school, let's move to one country and put the kids in a formal high school. So, what I've talked about personally is, maybe at that point, maybe I sell the business, whatever happens, maybe we move to London, for example. And, that is my compromise, that for high school, for, those last 4 years of a kid's education, we're going to go and settle in one place and we're going to get them in, fantastic high school and really prepare them for the university experience, if that's what they even want to do. And that's another paradigm that I think parents just assume, oh, the kid has to go to university. And I would not tell my child if they wanted to be a doctor, they have to follow in my footsteps and be in business. I would encourage them to do what they wanted to do. And if that meant university, that's what it would mean. I think allowing your kids to do what they want is something that is sorely lacking in today's society, letting them take the lead. And with guidance, of course, but letting them take the lead. But that also might mean not telling them they have to go to university, right? So I think there's so many paradigms that need to be examined in this space. That is my personal experience. It would be, or that's my personal philosophy in this, is saying keep them home longer, use tutors. Don't just let them learn on their own. Don't let YouTube be their school, but have some kind of formal curriculum that someone who's a professional can implement, and then possibly compromise, especially if they want to go to university, especially if they need that kind of university prep in those years. Maybe there's a compromise where you settle, you go to one place. Maybe that's your chance to get that high-level residence permit and citizenship. Maybe I want to go back and become Canadian at one point, and I can do that while my children are in high school. But the bottom line is, I do think it's possible, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you have kids, whether you don't have kids anymore because they're out of the house and now you're retired, there is a way to live the nomad capitalist lifestyle for everyone. Everyone's life can be different. You can be a single guy living a very staid, very settled down lifestyle. You can be a family that is less settled down. I don't think that it's a linear progression where your nomad capitalist lifestyle has to decrease over time. There's always a way to make it happen. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7 figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.